Let's talk about the S20 Ultra 2024. Now, of course, this is a 2020 device. So this device is almost 4 years old. And this is a device that came out actually during the pandemic because that's when, it got really bad over here in the United States. And when this phone was released, it was all about the cameras. But not only that, if y'all remember, I hope y'all remember this, but this phone was so ridiculously priced. I mean, I wonder if y'all remember how much the retail price for this phone was when it first came out. $1,400 plus tax. It's like, to me, Samsung lost their mind. I mean, I just couldn't believe they was charging that much during the pandemic. $1,400 for this device. Now, of course, all the YouTube, people, was reviewing it, and some was buying it, some, was given to them by Samsung, but this device, it was not worth $1,400. It just wasn't, okay? And like I said before, it was all about these cameras. Now, when it comes to the design of this phone, honestly, it was probably one of Samsung's worst designed phones. I mean, seriously. I mean, it would. I think maybe if they had used, well, the camera was just so huge, it took up almost half of the back of the top of the phone. As you can see how big it is. Now I got this case on here so I don't drop it, and it's a fingerprint magnet. But I mean, this case actually makes it look a little bit better. But with the gray and the black, those are the only two colors that Samsung offered, which I thought was a huge mistake, especially when you charging people $1,400. I mean, gray and black. Are you serious? Two colors? And the gray looked like a muddy gray. So I think I had bought that one first, but I hated that color gray so much till I got rid of it and just got the black one, which makes it a little more tolerable to look at. And then, of course, I put this case on here, with a kickstand. It made it look better. And then it was a lot easier, to hold in my hand, because I always use cases on my phone. They're just easier to navigate with a case on it. But yeah, this was all about the cameras. The cameras were good. They weren't phenomenal because there was some issues with the, I think it was, what was the problem with it? I think with was it the state? The focus. It was an issue with it, focusing and staying in focus. It was kind of in and out of focus, and they had to send a bunch of updates to this phone to fix it. So by the time I got all those updates, it was a lot better. Focusing wasn't that bad anymore. I mean, it was really bad initially when they, released it, but it was definitely a lot better after all those updates. But some people, it was still, the updates weren't enough. They still weren't satisfied with it focusing and unfocusing, what you're using, I guess if you're going to use autofocus. If you didn't use autofocus, then you didn't have that problem. But some people just want to use the autofocus. They don't want to worry about going into pro mode and changing everything and messing stuff up because everybody don't know how to, operate pro mode and all that stuff. But most people just want to point and shoot. They just want to put it in auto and just let the phone do what it do. But it definitely was better after all the updates. But this phone was, and I think it was Samsung's first phone that they came out with that had a 5,000 milliamp hour battery that I remember. I could be wrong on that, but I think it was the first. I could be wrong. And also what was a big deal about this phone too was the 45-watt quote unquote super fast charging, which I was impressed with because prior to that, the fastest charging Samsung gave you was 25 watts. Now this one actually charged from 1% to 100% in 58 minutes. So it was less than an hour. Now that's odd because my S23 Ultra takes over an hour, like an hour and 10 or 11 minutes. This less than an hour. So I don't know when they both got 45-watt charging and they both have the same battery capacity. So I don't know how that works. But that's confusing to me. But anyway, current pricing for this, the last time I think I talked about this particular device, which I think was last year, maybe. Yeah, probably last year. And the last time I saw the price for this was like $299. Now on Amazon renewed, $264 for this device. Renewed. Now brand new, you're probably going to pay over three, probably. But that's the current price. So that's dirt cheap. Keep in mind, this is a flagship device, top tier premium. The build on this is excellent as far as how it feels in the hand. It feels very premium. Gorilla Glass 6 on the front and back. However, Gorilla Glass 6 is very easily scratchable, which I don't like. But luckily I didn't get a bunch of scratches on this device, unlike my Note 20 Ultra. But of course, I kept cases on this, but it's just not the best when it comes to scratches. Now with the Victus, when they came out with Gorilla Glass Victus, no issues with scratches. But the build quality, how it feels in the hand, feels great. Now, also with these cameras, remember, it was all about the cameras. This was, I think, maybe the first phone that came out with 4 cameras. And then you had that 100 times zoom, which was definitely a gimmick because the thing shook so bad and you just couldn't keep it steady. Like it was ridiculous. And then if you were able to keep it steady and take a photo, it would look like a oil painting. It looked terrible. So I think the best as far as the zoom, I think it was best at maybe 10 times. I don't think anything past 10 times looked all that nice. Not that I can remember anyway, but I know that 10 times zoom looked pretty decent. Anything past that, it didn't look good at all. It just didn't, just being honest. So, of course they've gotten better over the years because now you zoom in 100 times, it looks way, way, way better. But 25 watt. Now, if you get this brand new, you do get a charger, or even if you don't get a brand new, you do get a charger. But if you get it if you do get a brand new, you get a 25 watt charger. Samsung's only going to give you a 15 watt charger. But if you get a brand new, you get a 25 watt charger. And also you get a pair of AKG headphones. Now, I think, this was the last device that Samsung gave you headphones. Because with the Note 20 Ultra, they didn't give you no headphones. They gave you a charger, but no headphones. And this one, I got AKG USB Type C headphones, and they really sounded nice. The only issue I had with them is that they didn't stay on my ear very well. They just kept falling out of my ear. But the sound quality was really great. They had volume and pause and play controls on it, and it had like a braided cable. They were really quality headphones in my opinion. Now some people may say they was trash. Okay, maybe they were trash for you, but for me, they sounded pretty good. I like the sound of them. All right, so with this device, be that it may, being a premium device, you get IP68 water and dust resistance. Of course, you got your usual face unlock that's still trash, because it's Samsung. So, it's not consistent. See, can't find my face. You got the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor that works sometime. It wasn't all that great on this device. This wasn't Samsung's first device using it, I don't think, but it wasn't very good. The fingerprint sensor is not all that great, at least not for me. I guess unless I put my finger on there and just leave it there, maybe it'll work better. Yeah, it seems like it works better if I put my finger there and leave it there. Yeah, but if I try to go just tap it real quick like that, sometime it'll work, sometime it won't. So it just depends. But you got, of course, the always on display as well, which is the always on display that Samsung got away from. Now, I don't have a bunch of, I really don't have any notifications at the moment, but you see that one there is, I believe that might be YouTube, I think. No, that's HD wallpapers. But this is the old always on display. Unlike, the newer one where everything, I'll show you. Like with this one, everything is just white. Let me shut it down. Yeah, well, like you can see everything is just white. Well, I got raised awake. That's why it keeps popping up. Hold up. Okay, everything is just white. And you see how small the notifications are? See, you see that one for Google? But see how small the notifications are? Everything is real teeny and everything is white on here. All your notifications are going to be in their color. So, if you like Samsung old always on display, then you're going to like the always on display on this. Now, you do get 12 gigs of RAM, not 8 like they did with the S20, the S23 Ultra, which they started out with 8 gigs of RAM, which I don't know why they did that, but 12 gigs of RAM on this. Now, this is the thing that a lot of people going to like about this device. Expandable storage up to 1 terabyte. Now, you can get, now, you know what else was a joke too? I got to say this because it just popped in my head. This was $1,400, right? Do y'all remember what the storage capacity was on this? Now, of course, it got expandable storage, which I appreciate. But $1,400 and you're going to start me off with 128 gigs of internal storage? Are you kidding me? Like, that was a joke. For that much money, this should have been 512 gigs of internal storage, but 128. The only thing that made it not be as painful, feeling like you got kicked in the teeth, was that it had expandable storage up to 1 terabyte. But 128 gigs of storage that was just crazy. Okay. Now, 45-watt charging, I already talked about that. 15-watt wireless charging, which didn't seem that bad, 4 years ago, but it's bad now because there's so many other devices. 50-watt wireless charging. Now, I know some of y'all out there don't care about wireless charging, but there's a lot of people out there that actually do, and I'm one of them. 15 watts, and it's still 15 watts right now to this day. It's a disgrace, honestly. It really is. Now, this is the kicker right here. 9 watts reverse wireless charging. Now, help me understand why they go from 9 watts down to 4.5. Why? Why did you take the wattage down? Made no sense to me. That just made no sense to me. But this does have 9-watt reverse wireless charging for those that use it. I've had to use it in a couple of pinches, with my watch. So I want to have as much wattage as possible. But everything else past this, 4.5. Keep that in mind. Now, with this display, because Samsung always makes beautiful displays. Of course, they don't get as bright as the newer, the newer phones. But this has a 6.9-inch Quad HD Plus dynamic AMOLED Infinity O display. That's when they call it the Infinity O display. I guess this was the first one that came out with that little, the little circle camera at the top as opposed to, having a bezel. So they call it the Infinity O display. You did get 120 hertz refresh rate, but only at 1080p resolution. So if you want to use the Quad HD resolution, you got to take it down to 60 hertz refresh rate. That's just the way it is. They call this an Ultra phone, and you can't even use it at Quad HD at 120 hertz. I don't understand what Samsung was thinking when they did this stuff with this phone. And this was their first Ultra device. This is what they was calling the Ultra. So there's a lot of things about this phone to me that's not Ultra. But that's just me. Dual stereo speakers sound pretty good, not the best, but they're pretty decent. You also get a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Good, one full day is good. It still gets one full day. Now, when I first got this device, I was getting a day and a half, which was pretty impressive because Samsung's batteries had never really been that good like that. But I was actually getting a day and a half with this, so that was pretty good. Now, with performance is still pretty good. Let me get rid of everything in the background so I can show you. So everything is still pretty good when it comes to performance. Like, it's not slow or anything like that. Everything pops up and, comes in. It's still pretty snappy. Hold up. I already went into that. Everything is still pretty snappy for the most part. Now, something that surprised me when I first was going in and out of apps when I was checking this phone out, I noticed a little screen burn-in. It's slight, but I can see it when I'm dealing with an all white background. I can see it a little bit. And that's a little disturbing. But like I said, if you're using everything black, you're really not going to see it unless you're looking for it. So When it comes to performance, it still performs very well, still pretty snappy. And like I said, the battery life is still pretty good. Now, Snapdragon 865, Android 13 was the last Android version this thing got, and also One UI 5.0. Now, when it comes to these cameras, because remember, this is what this phone was pushing hard was the cameras. They gave you 108 megapixel wide with optical image stabilization, 48 megapixel periscope, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, a 3 megapixel time of flight depth sensor, and you got 4 times optical and 10 times hybrid zoom, and of course 100 times space zoom. You got super steady video, and you can shoot 4K at 60 frames per second on the front and the back camera. So you got 4K at 60 on the rear and the front. And with the front, you got a 40 megapixel wide that shoots 4K at 60. So the cameras on here were really good. Now I did notice on some of my pictures when my son graduated high school, a while ago, that some of the pictures I took had a greenish, light greenish tint to it. Not all, just a few, but overall, it takes very, very good photos and really good video. I was very impressed with the video that I took on this. I mean, it looked like it came out of a professional camera. That's how clear and the sound and everything was. I was very, very impressed with the video quality of this phone. So overall, you may say, should you get this? Should you consider it? I say, yeah. I mean, if you want a premium device, you like Samsung devices, maybe you were interested in this device. I mean, keep in mind the price, $264. I mean, can't beat that price. Now, no more security updates. Just keeping it real. But it doesn't mean the phone doesn't have any security at all, because it does. Okay, it still has McAfee and Samsung security, so it does have security on it. Now, just keep in mind that price, and you do get your typical Samsung features like edge panels, live lock screen wallpapers, Samsung DeX. You do have Samsung Wallet with MST, magnetic secure transmission, which you can use this on old credit card terminals, unlike the newer devices where they took MST away. You got Samsung Pass, Samsung Notes, Good Lock, one-handed mode, link to Windows. That's just a few things that I normally use. I ain't naming them all, but I mean, you're getting an abundance of features on this device. So it's an older device, but it's a flagship premium device that has really good cameras, excellent display, a big giant battery, a big giant beautiful display, nice speakers, charges pretty fast if you get the 45-watt charger. You got faster reverse wireless charging as compared to the newer devices. And you got IP68 water and dust resistance, 12 gigs of RAM, expandable storage up to 1 terabyte. This is definitely, you're going to get value for this. I mean, just keep in mind, under $300 for a flagship. The only thing, no more security updates, if that's a big deal. That's not a big deal for everybody. I know some people, they're like, oh, as soon as the security updates run out, I got to get a new phone. I ain't one of those people. I don't get on a bunch of insecure or unsecure sites. So my phones have never got viruses, never been breached, none of that. I've never had any of those issues. Like I said, I'm not on a bunch of different, sites and unsecure or unsecure, insecure sites. One of them words, where my phone is vulnerable and all that. Just stay off that stuff. If you're just on Facebook, your typical social media stuff, just stick with that. Okay. But the phone still runs extremely well. I haven't had any issues with it. Still works like a champ. So the S20 Ultra, I still recommend it. It's up to you whether you want to get it or not, depending on if you like it. But I think it's still a worthwhile device to even, just to consider. All right. So thank you all for taking the time to view this content. I do appreciate it. I hope everybody out there is staying safe, staying well, and I'll check you guys out in the next one. Peace.